Oh man, this is bad. I think this is so true. No! It's the worst. Yeah. Hey, and welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things recruiting. In this video, we're actually gonna do something really fun. We are going to react to some good old recruiter memes. Want to point out though, I have not seen this before. We are randomly collected them from the good old internet, and I have a good list to run through them with you. If you're excited like me to get through these, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really means a lot and helps us kickstart this channel. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, first one. What's it like to be a recruiter? Imagine a browser with 2,487 tabs open all the time. This is so true, and it makes me laugh because if you were to look at my computer at any given time of the day, it would have a bazillion of tabs open because I'm personally working on sourcing multiple different roles, and for each role, I go through probably hundreds of profiles every single week. That doesn't mean I reach out to hundreds of people, but I look through hundreds of profiles on average for each position every single week. And instead of opening one at a time, I just open them all on my computer to the point where my computer slows down dramatically, and then I go through them. It's just a lot easier, but this is so true, and it's so funny that there's a meme about this. All right, next one. Who said recruiting was stressful? I'm 27 and I feel great. Recruiting is super fulfilling. It's fun, you can make a huge impact on people's lives, but it's stressful. Whether it's working with tough candidates, working with tough clients, whether candidates go to an offer and they get rejected, whether candidates withdraw themselves, anything can happen. Like, you really feel like you're going to battle every single day, and you just have to be on your A game and be alert and willing to take on anything that comes your way. Having done this for a little over 7 years, I totally agree. It is very stressful. In the beginning, you have to learn to really nail down your time management skills and compartmentalizing, because so many things happen all day, every day, and you do so many different things as well in each day, whether it's business development, client development, closing negotiations, or screening candidates. You just gotta make sure your brain stays sane, and not to mention going 100 miles an hour. So this is what I feel like after each week. Very true. Next one. Client, we're gonna need a replacement. It's not working out. Recruiter, this is one of the worst feelings that you can have as a recruiter working on the agency side. So one of the best feelings you can have is doing a successful placement with a client, but typically through your engagement or through your contract that you agree with the client beforehand, you would normally have what we call a guarantee period, where if anything happens within that period, whether the candidate gets terminated, he or she leaves for any reason, we are obligated to find them a replacement candidate. Every time we do a placement, it's great. It's a win. You get money wired to you. Life is great. But you secretly hope that you don't have to replace the candidate, because so much work has gone to finding that initial candidate. The last thing you want to do is find a replacement. So this has happened to me a lot of times over the years, and it just never gets easier. You can never get used to the feeling. It's like getting punched into something, like, oh my God, here we go again. And it doesn't help if the position is super particular, it's super niche, and you honestly just lucked out big time finding the first candidate. You're secretly thinking, how the heck am I gonna find another one? So that's exactly what this means. Typically, a guarantee period can last anything from as small as like 60 days, as long as, a couple months to even half a year. Most of the time, I usually stick with 90 days, sometimes 120 days, sometimes maybe a little bit longer for my clients that really ask. But talking to other recruiters, it seems like that's around the same length as well. Next one. A recruiter's face when they find that purple squirrel-looking unicorn. It's the best feeling ever, but it doesn't happen often. Typically when you recruit, you always want to find, obviously, like person that fits everything, but that happens rarely. And the people that have everything and then some, we call them a unicorn. They're mystical creatures that are hiding somewhere, and it's our job to find them. But when you do find it sometimes, when you do find that one unicorn of a candidate, it is the best feeling in the world. Finding them is great, but now reaching out to them, getting a response to them, and convincing them to be interested in your client, that's where the real work comes into. But Finding them initially is always a great sign, because then if you can't get them there, you can always follow up, and eventually, hopefully, you'll be able to talk to them. Not to mention, finding a unicorn will make your clients happy. Hiring managers a lot of times have unrealistic hiring expectations. They always want the perfect, the best people for their company. But what they have to realize is, like us and like what we're seeing in the market, those are very hard to come by. And if you find them, what makes you think they'll actually be interested in your company? Right? So learning and teaching hiring managers that it's okay. They don't have to have everything. As long as they have 70, 80%, and then they're willing to learn and take on skills on the job to fill in that gap, that's really all that matters. Passion, interest is also important here as well. Finding a unicorn, no better feeling out there. I always try to look for that unicorn every search, but if I don't find it, not the end of the world. Still gonna find some great people for my clients. Phone rings. Recruiter. Hi, I'm recruiting for a fantastic position. High salary, plus remote, plus bonus, plus holidays. Your skills are exactly what the employer is looking for. And then, no visa sponsorship, no. This is the sad truth. Unfortunately, not with all industries, but specifically with tech, specifically with smaller companies, a lot of them unfortunately don't have the capabilities or aren't willing to go through the hurdles or through the process to sponsor new visas for people or transfer existing visas to a new one. So many amazing talent out there, but unfortunately, a lot of them have visas, and for them to kind of break into the small tech world, it's very, very difficult. But there's still hope for them, because they can definitely apply it to larger startups, more established companies that have the capability to be able to take on and process any visa work necessary. But for the small 10-person pre-seed, pre-Series A, it's very, very typical, not just in New York, but across the country, where they unfortunately cannot sponsor or transfer visas. It could be timely, it could also be very expensive, or it could be a combination of both, or it could be a whole nother reasons that I may not know of. But this is something, unfortunately, I see every day, and a lot of times we come across great talent and we can't pitch them our small startup opportunities, but we do know that larger companies, institutions can definitely help them out or accommodate them for sure. This is my face when hiring managers think we just hop on LinkedIn and it just rains qualified candidates. I think this is so true. A lot of people think that recruiting is super easy. All you do is go to LinkedIn and spend 5-10 minutes, you send a couple emails, and then you get amazing candidates. If only that happened every time. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. There's a lot of other tools that we use, a lot of other online and offline methods that we utilize. We do creative campaigns, we do creative problem solvings, we even go through our database and use a lot of different ways to interact and respond and re-engage people. It's not just LinkedIn. This unfortunately happens to recruiters that do a good job. Their hiring managers that work with them are accustomed to getting good candidates from them all the time. So they just feel like, hey, like, you're doing a great job. Let's push down the gas pedal, send me more. And they just automatically assume we're magicians and we can send them good people all the time. That's not the case. We just work really, really hard behind the scenes, frantically using every resource at our disposal to find great people and then send it to our clients. But unfortunately, all the clients see is just emails or submissions of really great people. But yes, we do a lot more work than just pulling rabbits out of the hat. We do whatever we can behind the scenes, whether it's going in forums, meetings, networking, to scraping job boards and a variety of tools and extensions. We do it all to find clients the best candidates. I can place 50 more people by tomorrow. Yeah, no problem. That's really, really hard to do. Just placing one person takes a lot of effort. This could also reference a different type of recruiting, RPO or bulk recruiting, where they would be working with massive companies and filling maybe tens to hundreds of jobs that are open. For my industry, for what I do, we normally work hard to fill roles, and we take on 1, 2, 3 at a time. It's rare that I work with a client who has, hey, help me with 50 roles for tomorrow. Even just having 1 or 2 open stresses me out. I can't imagine what I would feel if someone asked me to find 50 people for tomorrow. Like, that's literally impossible. But I do know that there are a lot of other recruiters out there in different sectors or industries that are more used to working and filling positions in bulk like this. And maybe for them, this is something that they do every day, every week. But for me, for being specifically a contingent and retained recruiter, we don't normally do positions in bulk like this unless it's with a massive company hiring across all departments. But either way, whether it's 1 or whether it's 50, I still feel the same way she does. After every day or after every long week, you just want to pass out. Next. No, I think it's a great idea to interview 4 people before deciding what your hiring requirements are, said no recruiters ever. One of the frustrating things about recruiting is working with hiring managers who don't know what the heck they want. And if they don't know what they want, how do we know what they want? And most importantly, how are we going to be able to find the right candidates for them? For hiring managers who don't necessarily know what they want, they'll be like, hey, we want an engineer. We don't care what language. We don't care what background. Just send us good people. And then that makes our life so difficult because there's no way for us to really target or hone because we don't know the specific criteria or the X factors that the hiring manager is looking for. So what we have to do is do our best to almost read the hiring manager's minds and then send them people. What happens is that when you send them people, when the hiring manager reviews these resumes, they're like, first of all, this is not what I want. I'm like, great, you never told us what you want. Or number 2, they would use our candidates to constantly calibrate. And what could happen here is that after looking through resumes, they'll be like, you know what? I want someone with, for example, more front-end development. You go find someone more front-end development. And then after reviewing that batch, they're like, you know what? We want someone who's more maybe full stack or back-end. Then you end up going and starting a whole new search for full stack back-end. And then when they review that resume, like, you know what? We want someone who could do it all, but they have to have Python. And then this whole process takes so much time. It's wasting so much energy. I talk to a hiring manager who knows what they want from the beginning so we don't have to go through that back and forth and we can do what we do best, clarify that ideal persona and go straight after the groups of people that would be perfect for the company. But unfortunately, what happens is that for some people, it takes this long process. As long as you have patience and you can balance it out after every workday and every week doing yoga or Pilates or something to just calm you down, then you can slowly get to a point where you and the hiring manager is on the same page. But to get to that point could be long, arduous, and painful. 3 phone interviews, 2 Skype meetings, and 7 face-to-face interviews. Sorry, we're changing the rules slightly. It's the worst. It's the worst. It's similar to what I just talked about before, but this guy, this poor candidate in this example did 12 interviews. And then at that point, the company's like, we're changing the rules slightly, which could also mean the poor candidate who had to go through all of that, it has to be rejected, or maybe there's still a chance that they could be reconsidered for this new position. But it's not only frustrating for the candidate, but it's also super frustrating for the recruiter. We're helping the candidate through every single stage. I mean, of course, this example is extreme. No person should go through 12 interview rounds. That's ridiculous. I would definitely encourage, 3 to 6 max. Definitely keep it on the shorter end. It's the worst feeling ever when you think you have a candidate who's getting one step closer to the final round. Candidates getting excited, you're getting excited, and all of a sudden the last thing you expect is for the company to reach out to you saying, hey, we liked so-and-so, but we're changing the position completely. We need to see a whole nother group of candidates. Just makes you want to just roll down and go to sleep for 5 minutes. When a candidate tells you they have accepted another offer 2 days before start date, oh man, this is bad. Ooh. So when you get a job, you essentially sign a contract between you and the company. You agree on the offer terms, the equity, the benefits, and you agree on a start date. And then, it's part of that construct where you also agree that before you start a job, and it's also a little common sense, you're not going to continue interviewing at other companies. When you get a new job, when you physically sign an offer with pen and ink, at that time, you're supposed to shut down all other interview processes and let them all know that you're now off the market because you got a new job. This doesn't happen that often because if you do this, you will burn a lot of bridges. Burn bridges with the recruiter who get really, really frustrated and shocked that you went behind their backs to continue interviewing right before you start a new job. You will burn bridges with the company you just accepted an offer with that you're now reneging. And you risk the chance, especially if it's a small niche market or industry, for people just to get really, really mad and potentially badmouth you. You don't want to be in that situation. If you find yourself accepting an offer, follow through your actions. If it's not the right job, you can always leave, but now you have a valid reason and you went through it the right way, instead of reneging on a poor company that ended up getting super excited about you, only to find out that you're going with another company and you weren't transparent about it. Not a good look. Don't do it. Candidate: I would like to withdraw my application for the job. Oh, this is also one of those things where it feels like you get socked in the stomach. You try so hard to find the right candidate, and then you get them, you pitch them to the company, they're excited, you send them to the company's like, I want to talk to them. They go through a first round, second round, everything goes well. And just when you think the next stage would be an on-site or potential final, you get an email out of the blue from your candidate that says, I would like to withdraw my application, and give you no reason. Like that kills me. If you have a legit reason, I totally understand. I would still die a little bit inside, but I understand. But if you come to me and say, I would like to withdraw, and you leave it at that, I have so many question marks. Like, what do I do? Does something happen? Are you okay? Please be transparent with me. This is also really risky because the candidate risks harming the relationship not only with the recruiter, but also with the company as well. If you renege on an interview, you don't show up, it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. At least have the courtesy and just let the recruiter or let the hiring manager know beforehand that you're stopping the interview process and you're gonna withdraw. That is the right thing to do instead of just withdrawing immediately out of the blue. It takes a lot of energy for companies to interview people. It takes a lot of energy for us recruiters to find people. And so we all want the same thing. The company wants to hire someone that's excited about them. We want to find the best person for the company. We also want to make sure the candidate is happy. And so, there's a lot of parties happening at the same time, and it really, really works only the best if everyone is on the same page and communicates effectively to make sure that no feelings and no relationships get hurt. Help me help you fill your open job. I love this because, we're not just recruiters. What good recruiters do for companies is we're also educators, consultants, advisors. We help companies optimize their job recs, their interview processes. And there are a lot of times where we want to do whatever we can to get our company, get our client in a situation where they can start interviewing amazing people. That could mean, educating the hiring manager, saying, hey, you're being really too stubborn about this. Like, you're looking for only senior people. I think you want more mid-level people. Let us cast the net open for you so you have a bigger and more robust pipeline. Another example is the company has an interview process that's way too long. And then you realize that throughout the whole process, the candidates would be withdrawing themselves, or they would just not make it to the end because it just takes forever and they're interviewing with other companies that go much faster. And so you have to be like, hey, client, hey, hiring manager, you got to make your interview processes shorter, right? So we're there to be troubleshooters, not just for the candidates, but also for the companies as well, because we all want the same thing that they want as well. They want to hire people. We want to find people that they can hire quick and easy without any obstructions or challenges. Hey girl, have an updated resume? I love this because, most of the time we're reaching out to people who are passively looking, people who are happy at their current jobs, but always have an open mind. And when you talk to them, they may be fantastic over the phone. They may have everything you're looking for, but most out of the time, 9 out of 10, they don't have an updated resume. Why? Because they're not actively looking. So a lot of times we have to just basically go off of their LinkedIn if that's filled out well enough, or we just have to wait. And what happens is if you wait long enough, either the candidate forgets to update it or the candidate takes forever, and then the company might at that time find someone else and fill the job, and then your chances are lost, right? Anything can happen. So every time I find someone, I always do my best to ask if they have an updated resume. If not, if they can do it sometime soon, really establishing a sense of urgency, because if they're interested in the position that we're pitching them, it's in their best interest to get me that resume so I can get them in that door as fast as possible so they can start interviewing and ultimately get to an offer and everyone can celebrate. When that great candidate informs you they have already accepted another offer, I'm in a glass case of emotions. No! Man, it's like when you're working in my industry, where so many jobs are very, very competitive, meaning, it's really hard to find the right person. Or if you find a great candidate that you think is perfect, most of the time they would be interviewing with so many other companies, and it just makes the whole thing complicated. Like, how far are they with the other interviews? Like, are they already at the final or offer stage? And if so, does it even make sense for you to pitch them your roles, even though you really, really want to? Or if they're not, if they're, they have other interviews going on, or they don't have any interviews, and then you submit them to your job and you feel like, hey, I found a unicorn, one and done. But then throughout that process, then, they get hit up with 20 other companies. They start another 5 interview processes. And then maybe 3 of those 5 go way faster than your client. And then they ended up reaching an offer stage, getting an amazing offer before your client. A lot of times they accept. And then you want to do your best to just tell them, just wait until you get through to the final offer with our company, and then we can get you an offer that's comparable. And then, we can go into a nice discussion and negotiate. But then what happens a lot is that, when you get an offer, companies will start pressuring candidates. And then when you get multiple offers, the poor candidates feel like, they're super pressured. They have to make a decision, even though they may like another company, but they're not at the final stage for that company yet. And then they just succumb under peer pressure, accept an offer, let people know last minute. And then, the whole search falls apart. The hiring manager gets mad at the recruiter for not staying on top of his candidate's process. Now the recruiter has to find a whole other candidates to submit to a client's role. It's like the worst feeling ever. I just wish that every good candidate you find, if they like your job, they could just fly through from the first round of the offer, but it never happens like that. You have to stay on top of the candidate's interview activity constantly. And if you feel like your candidate might be going off the market soon or is accelerating with other companies, you want to do your best to accelerate your client's interview process as much as possible so that they can remain competitive and not be in a situation where the candidate just accepts another offer and disappears. Recruiter when starting a search, recruiter after a month of searching. Look at their faces. Yeah, no, this is true. Like, it feels great when you bring on a new client, you're working with a brand new company who needs help hiring, and you feel like you are their answer, you are their solution to help their team grow. And then you're energized, you sleep well, you're clear, you're lucid, you're ready to take on this new challenge. And then a couple weeks later, a couple months later, you look like this. And this is also very, very true. Recruiting is tough. It's not easy finding the right person. When you do find the right person, you have to try really hard to get them to be excited enough to want to speak to your company. And then once interview processes start, anything can happen. And just multiply that with 20 other candidates in 20 other different processes at the same time, and staying organized and being on top of everyone's interview processes, making sure candidates are happy, making sure clients are happy, making sure I'm happy. Whew, it's a lot. Recruiter, candidate, open to new opportunities. Yeah. This is funny because there's a setting on LinkedIn, which is one of the OG tools for recruiters, where candidates can change their availability status from like not available to now open to new opportunities. And once that happens, that recruiters can see that on our end. And I'm sure every single recruiter, if that person fits their criteria, will reach out to them in a jiffy. I reach out to people who have open to new opportunities statuses, but I also know that if I'm doing it, everyone else is doing it. So I pay attention more about the person's background, whether or not they have that status open, and I reach out to them in a curated, personal way in hopes that I can get a response and start developing a personal relationship there. But that is super funny. And yes, like when you find a really, really good candidate and then they have that status open, it's great. Like you're on hunting mode, you want to attack and you want to get in there as fast as you can to meet this person, to share them your perfect role for their next career stop. I hope you enjoy this. This video was a little bit different, but it was a ton of fun. I hope it gives you a little bit of glimpse, kind of a behind the scenes perspective on what recruiters do and who we are. If you really like this and you want to see more, or you have any other questions about recruiting, comment down below. If you want to see more Recruiter Reacts videos, more than happy to do that. Let me know as well. I try my best to post daily on TikTok and Instagram on Preston_Park, so feel free to add me. But thank you again. And if you really enjoyed this video, you want to see more Reacts video, you want to have more advice about career jobs, just learn more about recruiting, sales, or entrepreneurship, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It means a lot and helps us grow the channel. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.